again, just as kind of the last few calls have gone, if people join, great. But we know that, just the people already, who are meant to be on this call, we're so grateful. So Brandon, as some of you guys know here, is one of our first authors who we were introduced. Alex, maybe you could give a quick line on the introduction here that led to us connecting with Puffer, because it was Stephen Mackey.
Yeah. So I had to think way back and to those times. But yeah, Stephen Mackey, Puffer got us connected with Brandon, and just you guys are about to hear a little bit about his story and what makes this guy so special. But it was just so fun there's so many things we could talk about, but yeah. And not to mention Brandon's background, his pedigree, world champion, all these different things, World Series champion, all these different things we could talk about. Man, it's been a fun ride, and it's cool just to see how Brandon, like almost a year after you did the book, like just the things we're doing, man. Even what I saw on social media, you just had a speaking gig. Was it this week? That a huge conference room with all the corporate. What was that all about?
Yeah, I got to do one yesterday for a ministry called Toolbox. Just basically, it's a Christian ministry, but it's just like successful businessmen. They meet like once a month for lunch, and they bring in speakers. And I had a buddy that attends and kind of backed into the one in Houston, and it went okay. So they invited me in Austin. And so it's just a really cool group of folks. But yeah, it's been really neat. I mean, again, the book has just really led to some more opportunities to go share my story and hopefully encourage folks. So it's just another reason why working with you guys was so great, man.
Yeah, let's go, dude. Well, yeah, it was definitely one of the opening things I wanted to bring up, Puff, and setting up this meeting, man. October 27th. That's the date. Dude, literally 19 years to the day that the Boston Red Sox broke a curse, right?
What?
Did you know that?
Nope. You're telling me this? I didn't even know that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, obviously you might not have had a calendar where you're marking down X's to October 27th, 2023, but maybe like a quick word, and then we're going to dive into a little of your story and, man, just some of the fruit that's come from your book. Quick note on where you were. I'm thinking noon, October 27th. Dude, just that day, that night, Boston Red Sox, man.
Yeah, man. So I don't know if you guys know this, if you don't know this, but I wasn't there. So I went there. I got called up to the Red Sox that year for just a few days, honestly. And I got sent out, weird circumstances. A guy gets hurt. Bo, no names, so I'll include names. Johnny Damon dove for a ball, hurt his finger. They thought it was broken. So they called up a guy named Adam Heisdew, who and they needed the roster spot, so they sent me out. So Adam Heisdew was there at the stadium. I was in my living room like you guys watching it, and it was really cool just for baseball to see that happen. At the time, I honestly had no expectation of a World Series ring and all that stuff they were going to do, because they just didn't contribute a whole lot. But it was so neat to just have like 2 days in Fenway in the home uniform, taking all that in. And but yeah, no, I was in my living room watching like you guys, man.
Watching in my living room as a sprightly fifth or sixth grader, I believe, just back to 2004, and this many years later, man, just so cool. And I thought that was just an awesome tie. Now tonight, World Series Game 1, yes. Go Rangers, I guess.
Go Rangers.
We'll say fun to see a couple new teams in it at least. Agreed. And speaking of Rangers, Astros. Astros are one of the teams that you played for everyone on this call. And yeah, man, as I was looking through just a few of these amazing Amazon reviews on your book, that was one of the reviews. And so allow me to read a couple of these things, because again, it just shows the incredible fruit of your story, getting it down on paper. And so this review that I read from a guy named Zach Good, he goes, "I'm a lifelong Astros fan, and Brandon Puffer pitched for them during a time in my life when I followed every game. I remember reading about his surprising brush with the law and thinking that there had to be more to the story. This book provides that context in an inspiring redemption story. I'm happy to hear Brandon is living at peace and helping inspire others to better themselves." Just such a cool review.
Yeah.
There's another from Rocco Constantino, which is an awesome name. He goes, I found Brandon Puffer's book From the Bullpen to the State Pen to be a great read. I can't give enough credit to Mr. Puffer for his honesty, humility, and remorsefulness in this book, which you can tell was not easy to write at all. The book not only details the events that led to his arrest, but gives you background all the way to childhood. It shows how he took those difficult first steps after coming out of jail and made sure his mistakes wasn't in vain. And man, it's just like, I could keep going on these reviews, dude. But I think with that being said, maybe just a quick note, Puff, on a little bit of your story, but more about today and what you get to do today to inspire others. To plant the seed here for you all, Brandon goes by Coach Puff Positive. It's kind of his Twitter handle and some of his speaking. That's kind of a bit of a moniker because it's so true, the positivity he has to share. So Brandon, if you want to share a little bit again about your background and then what you're up to today, and then we can get into maybe some questions and go from there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for reading that, man. If you read any more, I'm going to be in tears and won't be able to talk. So, man, that's just so humbling to hear those. And it just goes back to, honestly, I know this is not why you brought me on the call, but you have to know, I'm just going to continue to say thank you to you guys, because I tried it forever without you guys, and it didn't happen until I joined up with you. So thank you. But yeah, I mean, just, my story and how it lines out in the book is just a story of honestly, just a young man that had a huge dream of being a big league ball player. Went through some childhood traumas that a lot of people can relate to. And I'm trying to be real open about speaking about things like sexual abuse and alcoholic in the family and things like that, because I know that I'm not alone in that. And I want to give voice to people to raise their hand and go, wait, I went through that too. And man, if I don't heal that little boy, I might be going down some dark paths as well. So that's a big part of the story. And then kind of, sharing a little bit about fun baseball stories and where I did get to, achieve that dream and share some cool stories in that regard. But then also kind of how my career ended unexpectedly with, one bad choice on one night, and just trying to encourage people that, hey, this is serious. Your choices, they really affect not just you, but your whole family and all the people that love you and look up to you. And, at that point, my family was so proud of their son being a big league ball player. And now one choice, right? One night I end up, serving time in prison and having my whole life flipped upside down. But I keep saying me, more than that, my family and just everybody around me, And so just bringing light to that, and the fact that God's able to use a story like that to encourage people, to motivate people. Maybe it's just to not go down that path, or maybe it's to take all the shame and guilt in their life and go, hey, man, this guy's been through that and there's life after this. And then when I was in it, I didn't always see that. And so the people who encouraged me, who had been through similar circumstances and now had a little bit of success, or at least quality of life and love with family and loved ones again, really encouraged me to go, okay, keep plugging away. There's some hard days, but keep going, because there are people that get on the other side of this and have quality of life. And the enemy will always be telling you, especially during that time, not you. You messed up too bad. No more baseball for you. No more love for you. No more, family for you. And I get emotional because he's given me all that and more despite those decisions. And this book has just really given more opportunity to speak on that and encourage people. That's all for now.
Dude, what are you trying to do to me on a Friday, man? I feel it too.
I know. It's raw, man. It's just raw stuff.
Yeah. It is. It is raw because it's life, man. And this is it. It's the lows. It's working through the junk of the day to day and the week to week, and it never stops, because we know this earth, not how it's supposed to be, man. And just like Bo said, so proud of you, Amy. So such good words. Yes, that's Puff Positive, man, because it's where you're at today, and looking at your past, recognizing, hey, where I went wrong is not going to define where I'm going. Right. And we are so proud of you. Since day one of knowing you, Puff, it was just like, let's go. Let's get this story down on paper. We love the line, guys, and we share with prospective authors, that someone you have yet to meet is counting on you to get better today. Yes. And that's a good one. If you've heard us say it we like the term of like chief repeating officer. You know, sometimes you just need to hear that multiple times because it's true. Yeah. You know, and Puff, like those Amazon reviews, man. I think about our calls. You know, summer 2021, man, where we're going through, you know, just kind of the nitty gritty of your story and how do we get this down on paper and steward your story well, because we knew those people needed to hear it. And we just got to play a part in the process. So just so proud of you, man. Yeah,
Thank
Alex.
you. That's what's so sorry to cut you out real quick, but that's why I get emotional, because you kind of go full circle and you look at, you know, the times where you just didn't feel worthy of a book or a word or, you know, just anything. And so it's really cool to just, you know, go full circle and look at it. And the tears more come from just the humility of, man, he really can use this story. And it just kind of comes full circle when I hop on with you guys. And I think you've heard me say it before, but the other part of that is if my eyes are leaking, my head can't swell. So any part of me that's like, check me out with my book and my speaking engagements, it's like, no, it's not you, man.
Man, no, Puff, I was just going to say, you know, I spoke in Virginia this year, but you spoke the year before at the same event, you know, however many 600 softball players this tournament. And the amount of people I met who just like had amazing things to say about you was so cool because I was hearing it firsthand. And so a question I had in relation to your story and what you've been through, where God's brought you today. I know for me, when there's elements of sharing my story, like the vulnerability of that, I noticed that so many people connect. And I would just love for you to share with us, like in the aftermath of what you went through, and, you know, was there an element of like, oh, I can't share this story? And then now that you've started doing that, what has that done for you with speaking, with the book, all these different things? Because I feel like a lot of times it's easy to be like, oh, I don't want to really share the rawness of it. Yeah. But you're going, no, like I want people to know. So yeah, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, great question, Alex, man. And I have some kind of like fresh info on that. But yeah, even at one point, my agent during my baseball career, I think I shared this with you guys, was like, hey, let's just pay to get this buried. Let's just put it away. We can get you back in baseball coach, you know, whatever. And all that. I'm like, man, I just can't do that. Like, this is my story now, you know? And so, but looking back at it, a couple of things stand out to me. And one was just yesterday when I spoke, you know, this is a group of successful, you know, businessmen. We're at the Austin Country Club. I'm looking around going, are they going to kick me out any moment here? I'm like, I promise I'm speaking here. I belong here. And, you know, my wife and I are just humbled to be in a room with people like that. But then, you know, I spoke very rawly about, very vulnerably, transparently about like, look, guys, if you're struggling, tell somebody. Like, I literally heard a voice in my head before I went out that night. Don't do it. Go ask for help. And I didn't, because of my ego. People were looking up to me. I didn't want to let people down. And I had a man come up to me afterwards in tears and said, hey, I'm a president of a huge company. I've got a lot of partners. I've got a lot going on, and I'm going to go expose myself tomorrow. He goes, it's time. I have to. And he was in tears. He was scared. He goes, I don't know if I'll have a company. I don't know if I'll have partners, but I know I'll get my life right. And for my mom, or my wife and my daughters. And I just hugged them and said, wow, that's amazing. And there's been a few times where one time in particular, an older man in his 70s came up and shared with me about the sexual abuse when he was young, and he had never told anybody. And he just said, man, he said it in front of the group. He said, you know, I'm going to say this, you guys, it was a ministry. They'd all been together a long time. And so they knew him. He said, nobody knows this about me, but I'm putting it out there. And I was just like, times like that where I'm like, oh, if it gives strength or courage or voice to one person to do that and get on the road to healing, it blows my mind. And I always go into it going, man, if I can encourage one person, and then when one person comes up and says something like that, you're like, all right, that was it. That was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So good, dude. Yeah, Puff, you know, you, me, and Alex, we could go for a while here and just catching up on life and what's going on. Yeah, Richard, such a good word. Sometimes it gets to the point on these calls just to open it up. Yeah, anyone maybe want to have a question, or you can take yourself off mute there. Yeah, maybe Mark. At least it looks.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. So, Brandon, when you look back at this situation, it might sound like a crazy question, but would you do it all over again? I mean, would you live that same life, that same journey, make no changes, or would you say, I would change it? Now, you have no idea what that outcome looks like if you change it, right? So,
right.
And would you do it all over again?
That's a good
It's
question, Mark.
crazy.
Actually, I've been asked that before. It's a really good question. The answer is yes, because of what it's led to, except for if I could alleviate the pain I caused other people, there's a victim involved and then my family and their family, then obviously I would alleviate that. I would say, no, I don't want to. If we can go all the way just to that point where we can take that away, then I would change that. But ultimately, no, because in my life, it was just such a selfish pursuit of my career and just kind of all these things being self-absorbed that I needed the humility. I needed to know that God had a different plan for me and it wasn't all about me. So that is what it took for me to get outside of myself and get on this path to making my life about service to others. It wouldn't have happened without that. So no, I wouldn't change it, but I would only, again, just kind of, if I could take away, the pain that it caused others, I would.
Thanks, man. Love the answer.
Thank you.
That is a good question, Mark, because it's a question for all of us, right? When we look to our past experiences, we all have one or two of those. Man, we'd love to have that one back. But no real mulligans in real life. Unlike me on the golf course, which is about 4 or 5, maybe 10, I allow myself. And so
big foot wedge guy.
Yeah, right. Bo, I think you're probably trying to suppress your inner podcast host, which you guys, Bo Payne, another one of our Streamline authors that we're so grateful could be with us, just launched his new podcast. I'll drop a link in here, just like Alex dropped. We're overdue to drop Brandon's book, his Amazon link in here. So please, whether thinking about the youth, right? And that's another part of Brandon's story I'm sure he'll get to and what he gets to do today. But if you have a young group of young people, such a good resource. I'll drop Bo's new podcast here. And Bo, you can give them a sliver of a taste of what this podcast is like with this question for Brandon, for sure.
Well, what I wanted to ask Brandon, our stories have a lot of similar parallels, baseball, prison, some redemption, our faith. And you talked about, your agent saying, hey man, let's just suppress this. And was there a point in your life where you just said, I'm just done. I've just got to put it out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And for me, when that happened, I was just washed away. I felt the freest that I've ever felt in my life. And it was a blind leap of faith. I didn't know how people were going to react, if they were going to look down on me, say, you're this, that, this, and that. But for me, just to get that off my shoulders and off my chest was worth all of the maybe negative blowback and ultimately the positive. And did you ever have like a come to Jesus moment like that, where it's time? Yeah,
I did, Bo. I really did. So when this first happened, I was in denial. I was like, okay, this is just one of those things. It's gonna, it's gonna go away. We're good, And then when it really, really hit me is when for those who don't know my story, I ended up having to go to a jury trial. It lasted about 3 days, and I'm still just going like, what the heck? This thing, it's moving forward, but it's like surreal. It's like an out-of-body experience. And when I got sentenced and when they took me away and they put me in a holding cell, as soon as those bars kind of clanked is when I had my real come to Jesus. Like, about, maybe you know this, everything up to that point was like, oh God, I'll be good. Please don't let me go to jail. I'll get back on track. I'm not drinking. I'm sober, please. And then when that happened, it was like, okay, it's bigger than this. It's realer than you gave it credit for. This is your new normal. And okay, God, whatever you have for me. So I literally walked through my prison days, almost 4 years with that joy, with that peace, with that stuff I never found before that. And so, no, when I got out, there was never a time where I was like, okay, I'm not going to share this, which is organically, like, I'm just going to be honest. Here's who I am. And in fact, in the beginning, I felt like it was all over me. Like I had to say something. Like in order to take the power away, I had to go, wait, I just got out of prison. This is what happened. And people were like, oh, okay, wait a minute. But like, I just kind of, and then even now knowing like, it really does kind of like turn the tides a little bit of like, you can't have the power over me because I'm going to share it openly and use it to help as many people as I can. And there's still folks that want to come at me about it. And so that's fine. But no, so ever since then, Bo, and you're right, it just gives that freeing moment. Like when people go, oh, did you know that? It's like, well, yeah, he talks about it all the time. Yeah, we know that. So yeah, you're right. It just kind of frees you up a little bit. Yes, sir.
Thank you, man. That was perfect. That's all
Absolutely.
I have, man. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Great question, Bo. And again, just so pumped to get you guys linked up, and cannot wait for that podcast episode. Because that was, hey, I take that as a little preview. And then Amy, great question as it relates to, again, just future generations, which are up and coming. Amy with 3 sons and a daughter, she said in the chat, of all play sports, love to watch professionals. How can her children avoid pitfalls that maybe impacted you? And then what are some things that she could share with them that you would think help? It was a great question for any of us with kids. Just thinking about, future generations out there.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And to your point, Will, and just in a roundabout way, it is mostly what I do now with our youth and high school program. I mean, it's baseball. I mean, we coach and still doing what I love, which is amazing, but it's so much more than that with helping families navigate, exactly what Amy's asking about. And so the biggest
can you touch on GPS real quick? And then
sure.
Just the name I think is so cool, because I'm not to cut you off or discontinue your answer, but I love the meaning behind GPS. And
yeah, for sure. So GPS started it's a nonprofit youth and high school program. A partner that played a long time, a buddy of mine, we started it together. Just a leap of faith to kind of start some teams and pour into some young men, and it ended up really growing to places we couldn't even imagine right now. But it just means more opportunities to impact people. And so it's God provides strength, and then we also came up with it because it's like, okay, what is our goal? What is our mission? And it is to help kids find their directions. So we're like, oh, GPS does that. We kind of like linked all this in. My last name's Puffer. His is Gordon. So Gordon Puffer GPS. Anyway, all that for the name. And then, we're always kind of sharing that GPS that, hey, you can get off the course as long as you want. God can always put you back on the path. But however, if you want to take that alternate route, it can go really sideways and get really rocky and be really painful. But you never go so far where that GPS can't get you back on track. And so a big part of that is, back to the question is, a couple things, guys. It's not all about you. This is my message to the kids. Like, you're so much more than the sport you play. Like for me, it's baseball, but to plug in any sport or any hobby or anything you're good at, like you're not a basketball player. You're a human being that plays basketball. And my whole identity was wrapped up in baseball, 100%. I mean, it was all, if I was going good, then life was good. If I wasn't, then, it's all I had. And then, baseball is going to be taken away. Any sport you play at some point is going to be taken. I was blessed. I got to play 15 years, but it ends for everybody. And so now, where is your identity? And that's the biggest thing, Amy, or anyone with kids, and myself, I have kids. I just had a grandson that's 7 months, and we're already talking about making him a lefty and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't ever want to be that guy that's like, it's all about this and your performance in baseball and whatever. And at the end of the day, like, what is your identity wrapped up in, right? And so just giving that good, solid foundation of, as a parent, I honestly think the only thing that should be said after a competition is, man, I love watching you play. You're awesome. And I had a mom like that. I'd be like, did you watch the game? Like, what's wrong with her? But at the end of the day, it's like, there's just, it goes so fast. Like all the stuff about your how you played, what you did. I know we want to help and we want to pour into, but it's like, I just love watching you play. What do you want to go eat? Like, I just love just that positive message of like, you can't screw up on a field or a court and it's going to affect our relationship. You know what I mean? That's, I think, would be the biggest thing. And encouraging them to just know that, hey, as good or as bad as your day went on the field or court, I love you. I love watching you play.
Yeah, wonderful, Amy. Spot on. I think all of us can say thank you for that word, man, because it is so spot on. Again, whether you have kids or whether you're, in charge of, serving, whether Boys and Girls Club, all those things. Yeah. I mean, man, how much do words matter when it comes to those young developing souls? From 7 to 14 to 18, entering into young adulthood, like your words matter. And so I love that line, Puffer. And yeah, man, you think about transitioning to our couple coaching points, which is sometimes tough because it's like, dude, I just want to keep talking about this and life and encouragement, all this stuff, and for the agenda that I would have sent out this morning that some of you might have read of like, hey, these 2 things on the coaching side for Streamline, what we're about, we tell people, hey, garnering these testimonials that are so strong. Like I read a couple at the beginning of this call with your Amazon reviews, right? Nothing really you're doing other than these incredible words of praise that people shower on you, other than, us saying, hey, go get them. If you talk with people throughout the year, hey, here's a link to my book. Would you mind leaving an Amazon review? You know, that's super important. You know, my brother and I love the line of raindrops fill buckets, you know, and gosh, if you shoot for one Amazon review a week, you know, 52 weeks, that's 50. So things like that for your book, in addition to speaking, you know, the importance of, Alex, I don't know if you want to touch on just like the importance of garnering those testimonials and how, again, they compound over time, that then kind of will give way into some of the social media. So yeah, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is that if you guys don't know this, Brandon's book, Rick Warren wrote the foreword for his book, right? Rick Warren, who sold what, 50 million plus copies. And so, you know, that he sold a few copies of The Purpose Driven Life. And so that's cool. And so there's a cool connection there with Brandon, his family, and the Warrens. But yeah, I think even like Julie and Amy, who are on this call, they have such amazing websites. They have such, I think, a thing that I thought of as you asked that question, Will, you mentioned that was like, I think what's important that I've seen is getting testimonials from different industries. Because I remember when I first had my speaking website early on, I had like only high schools. And like one of my first corporate engagement, they emailed me and they're like, hey, like we're on your website and they're like, looks like you speak at a lot of schools, but like we're a company, like do you speak at those kind of things? And in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, like this is where I want to head. This is where, you know, there's more money in corporate, or, you know, I feel like called to be in that space. But I'm like, I didn't position myself that way. And so, yeah, I think that's maybe something that I think of is like, I look at, you know, Julie or Amy's website and it's like so clear on what you're getting, the level, like the clients they've worked with, that you're just going, my goodness. Like, and so it's almost like from an event planner standpoint, you look at one of their websites or their social media and you're going, well, gosh, if all these other companies have trusted them, why wouldn't we? You know, and so Puffer, I even think about yesterday, you speak into all these, you know, bougie people in Austin, you know, it's like, I mean, who knows how many people are in that room going, gosh, I need him to come speak to my company. And so I think, yeah, Brandon, I don't know what that's been like for you of testimonials, but yeah. I've definitely seen the importance of, yes, go ahead, Brandon, if you're going to say something.
No, you're dead on, Alex. Absolutely. And even from yesterday, there's been a few emails this morning of, hey, I was there yesterday and we have this group. And so for me, it's just been, you know, I think it's a cliche, but like the best ability is availability, right? And so obviously you get to a point, right? Will, Alex could probably speak to, where it's like, okay, the calendar gets a little busy. So it's not like I can say yes to everything, but if I am available, I'm just a yes, like, yep. And they're like, well, what's your fee? And it's like, well, here's our contract, but don't let that be the issue. Sometimes it's, hey, we don't have a budget. It's like, okay, well, I'm coming. Or sometimes it's like, well, we just have a little honorarium. Okay, I'm there. Or it's an 8-hour drive, or it's right down the street, or whatever. And I just always share that. I'm like, okay. And for me, that's more of like a deal I made with God sitting in a prison cell. Like, hey, if you ask me to go speak and I'm available, I'm going. And so because I don't get super picky and go, oh, they're not going to pay the full speaking fee, or they're not, I just say yes. It leads to a lot of other things. It really does. And so I mean, for me, and I'm not the greatest businessman in the world by any stretch, but just being available and going and speaking from the heart, regardless of what it's going to garnish immediately, tends to just kind of organically build up more opportunities, is what I've noticed. And then on that note as well, I think in the very beginning, it's keeping momentum, being consistent. Because in the very beginning, it's kind of easy. We're all fired up. We launched the book and everybody's excited. And I send everything to the family and they're like, yeah, heck yeah. And then, you know, it tapers off. Everybody's got life going on. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Remember, I wrote the book. And so just being consistent every day of getting your message out there. Not like every day I'm posting my link and going, buy the book. The book's still out there. But it's like posting positive stuff. You know, people might go, hey, I kind of like this. What's going on here? I want to check into this book. And so just gaining momentum, keeping momentum, being consistent, because sometimes it feels like, okay, it kind of went to the wayside. And it's like, well, you know, at the end of the day, it comes and goes as it needs to. But on the speaking front, definitely being available. The book offers so many opportunities. And then on top of that, every time we go speak, even if they're like, hey, we don't have a budget, it's like, okay, cool. Can we set up a table and people can purchase books if they like the message? And then we end up selling some books, and that just leads to more of that.
Wow.
Yeah. Dude, that's it. And it's such a good segue into kind of the second coaching point I had, which was using social media, you know, and even in our last couple monthly coaching calls, I think a couple of months ago, we had Thomas Williams, who's wonderful and brilliant. And his strategy doesn't really include social media because he's not active on it. And he's open about that. He's like, hey guys, social media is great for some, not me. I get creative in other ways. And so it was a cool call because we got to talk about that. Of like, it doesn't mean you can't be an amazing author and speaker, It just means you get, creative. For you though, you are an amazing Streamline author. Again, another kind of similarity to you and Bo, because I know Bo, you've utilized social in some really cool ways, but Brandon, it's consistency, and that, again, over time, you've done such an amazing job over the last year. Coincidentally, leading up to this call, Brandon just informed us that he's been locked out of his LinkedIn account, and he's currently working with customer service to get back in. And we're saying, dude, keep on, because bro, that's they can't keep that positivity locked down. So yeah, maybe just touch on that, just your kind of philosophy behind social media, because from what we can see, man, your consistency has been just wonderful, and we know others have been blessed by it.
Yeah. Well, first thought is a couple synonyms for consistency are OCD, neurotic, those kind of things. Played baseball for 15 years and like routine, right? So I got to a point where I just challenged myself. Like, I'm going to post something every day, something positive, try to get something out there, not concerned about likes, not concerned about numbers, analytics, any of that stuff, right? Ironically, I don't know if you guys saw this. I told Yvette, I go, hey, I got to 1,000 followers on Coach Puff Positive. I had GPS Twitter for a while, so that's, whatever. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm going to make a tweet about that. And I was like, no, I don't want to put that out there. And she's like, it's not bragging. It's just like thanking your followers. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I was at like 1,003 and I lost 3 followers. I'm like, oh, this would be awkward if I go to like 999. And so just like, that was a funny thing to me. That was the last couple of days, but no, just being consistent, man. And sometimes it's just a couple words, a quote that hit me. I probably need to do better again about doing some of the video stuff. Having that feeling of just like, man, again, the enemy just going, well, who's gonna want to see your mug on there and listen to you talk? Like, just post something. You know what I mean? Just fighting through that what do people think of me when I post it? And what I've noticed about people that do a great job is they don't care. They really don't. It's like they're gonna be consistent. They're gonna post it. They could care less if 10 people go, who nobody cares, idiot. Where if there's one person that's like, awesome, you encouraged me today, they're going to keep doing it. Some of the guys I know we all look up to, I look at their stuff and I watch them and go, yeah, they're just consistent, man. Whether they're traveling, whether you're getting some pushback or whatever it is, they just keep throwing that out there. And so that's been what I've tried to do. I'm good at it on Twitter. Yvette does the Instagram, and she kind of just takes whatever on Twitter and does it. And then LinkedIn was awesome. And again, they locked me out. I lost my email. Can't get into it. It's been like a month and a half. Customer service is brutal. And as of this morning, I got an email from an actual person, I think, not a bot. And they're like, okay, send me a screenshot. I'm going to try to get you back in. So I'm going to be consistent with it. But that has been tough because I have a bigger reach on LinkedIn than I do on any of the other ones. So like you said, it's just the enemy going, I'm going to hold you down. And you know what? I got frustrated. I was like, forget it. And I'm like, no, we're going to keep going. So that's it. Consistency. We're back to that word. I mean, that's all it is. I love a quote that says, don't do a lot, a little, do a little, a lot. So, right, again, in the beginning when this book launched, man, we could post all day and get fired up. And then anyone can do that for a little bit. But is that sustainable? So just kind of sustaining consistency throughout and never giving up on it.
Dude, such a good quote. I know you said, there's this quote. You just own that, man. Hey, that is Brandon Puffer original. I don't know where you were.
Yeah. I just made that up.
Yeah, man. Nothing new under the sun. But gosh, so good. And just proud of you. Even kind of like speaks a little to this call, whether 9, 10, 11 people, however many have been on this call. It's like, oh man, it's like, could we have gotten 20 or 30 people on this call? Obviously we wish for that because we want everyone to know you, but it's like, was it worth it for Amy, to ask that question about her kids, or just amazing feedback. Even just Richard, your line was so encouraging, man, which was funny in the chat. Full transparency, guys. Richard Morehouse goes SLP. And I thought, what is SLP? So I realized it said Streamline Publishing. And I was like, oh yeah, that's us. So thanks, Richard, for the awesome acronym usage. And yeah, man, maybe one more question from any of you all, if you have for Brandon, before we can wind down here with kind of last activity. And yeah, Julie.
Can I just say 2 things? And thank you, Brandon. Really awesome. Honestly, I don't feel like I even heard like a speck of your story. I heard like a couple of nuggets. I want more. So I look forward to reading your book. But 2 things I just wanted to say. You mentioned Amazon reviews, and I had a really interesting conversation last night. I went to meet up with some ladies from my Rotary Club, and some of them are my age or older. And one of them said, "Hey, I finally went to post a review on Mirror Mirror. It took me 3 hours to figure out how to do it." And then 3 other ladies said, "Yeah, I have no idea how to do that. Like, will you show me how to do a review? Like, I'll write you a review." I'm like, did you read the book? Yeah, I read it, but I just didn't know how to do a review. And it had never occurred to me that that's a big barrier for people who, like we think, oh, all the millennials and all the young people and whatever, and us, we're in the world of this. We can easily write a review. But like in the middle of the night, I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to do some kind of social post that says, click here, do that, just to, and like talk about the conversation that I had last night. So I really didn't know that. And it reminded me that I had a conversation with my mom when Mirror Mirror launched, and she was like, "I don't know how to do a review on Amazon." So it's like, we're all purchasing these things, but not everybody knows how to write a review. So like maybe being more overt about showing people how to do it. And the other thing about social media consistency, just to share, I have historically sucked at social media consistency, like really, really bad. And I'm not good at it. And it's a barrier for me. So I hired someone to do it. And I think like just to know that we don't have to do it ourselves if we're not good at it. Like we can farm out the things when the time is right to help us be good at something that we're not good at, So yeah, delegate to elevate. I love it, Alex. So anyway, and also to your point, you were talking about consistency and people don't care and whatever. Like I literally had a meeting with my social media people and I was like, I am so sick of myself. Like every time I turn around, there's another post and I didn't even know that was happening because there was one yesterday. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get over that. Like, I feel like I'm overexposed. Why do I have to post so many things? Like slow down, but consistency is the thing that really does work. So you're right.
Yeah, Alex, you're right. But Julie, great point. And I will tell you from experience, that's me. Like you have to line it out for me. Like I know kids will say like, "Hey, I'm trying to get this merit award or whatever. Can you do a video or can you write a review?" And I'm like, tell me exactly what you need. If I can click on and do it, I'm in. But if I got to take 2 or 3 steps, I'm not proud to say it, I'll probably be like, I don't really have time, whatever the case may be. So I think that's huge. You're going to see me tweet something on that too. Like, hey, if you guys have read it and you want to leave a review, here's exactly how you do it. Because you just nailed it for me. Like when people ask me to do it, it's just like that. It's like, I know how important they are. So I want to be able to do them, but you're going to have to lay it out for me 100%. That's a great point. Yeah. No. And then like I was going to say, like I could jump in. I like to engage on Twitter. I started to do that more because my GPS Twitter is just about those kids. I never do. Now I have my own little Coach by Father. I'll engage on just random stuff. And man, I'll post something I think this is so profound. Everybody's going to love this. It'll get like 2 engagements, 1 like, and the like is probably from my other Twitter GPS. And then like I'll chime in on some stupid baseball card thing about some old card I had or Sammy Sosa hitting a home run off me. And I'll get like 1 million. And I'm like, nobody cares about the other stuff. They care about this junk, and I'm trying to be more profound. So anyway, it's just so hard to tell what people are going to like and not like. But again, just being consistent without worrying about, because it would be easy for us to go, man, no one even likes that stuff. Who really cares? Why would I even do it again? But just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And I imagine Alex, John, and some of these guys, I know Damon back in the beginning, it was just like that for them. And they just stayed consistent and kept doing it and getting more engagements. And I guess it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Yeah, dude. Well, don't say bad content on this call, man, because the last 40 minutes have just been so packed. Everything, yeah, from high level to all the way down to boots on the ground. Julie, that's like such a good point, and I'm just thinking, man, like what for our Streamline authors, you're so right. I think about Amazon. It all comes back to Amazon. That's the problem here. It's, you ask, hey, change my home shipping address on Amazon. I mean, it's a maze, you click on your profile and down drops all these different options. And it's like my account, like all this stuff. So it is tricky. Like the behemoth or Facebook, remember when it was so simple? It was like, here's my wall. And now it's like, you've got groups, you've got pages, you've got all these things. It's just such a good point. So we'll kind of start to wind down here, guys. And again, just thank you for y'all who have been on. I mean it. This is may have been like one of my favorite monthly group calls that we've done. It is interesting on a Friday. How could we not do it on a Friday though, dude? With your Brandon has an amazing tweet that he'll send out every Friday of a guy dancing along the side of a moving car. And
Mufasa brings it, man.
Yeah. So go check it out, and maybe I'll include a link in the follow-up email to this. But just the last bit that we do is the giving portion of this call, which is something we give to you in the form of just a PDF that we'll send out again that you can take into account, and maybe you journal this entry, maybe you actually print out the PDF. Either way is great. But if you're listening to this call, know that we created a little PDF called the To My Lower Self exercise, which I know at face value sounds maybe a little harsh, but it's not to my low self. Currently, it's to my lower self. And yeah, just these lines here that express a letter to my lower self in the sense of, hey, what's a day or two in your life years ago, maybe months, but maybe years ago that you were in a pretty low state, maybe the lowest state, call it rock bottom, call it what have you. And we've all heard, it's like, hey, if you were to say something to your younger self, which obviously makes sense, what would you tell yourself at 13 or 18 about, the lessons in life? But if you could go back to that low moment, what is a letter you would write yourself? And so I just thought, hey, cool, and kind of this theme around Brandon and your story. And dude, maybe you can just send us off. I'd be curious, bro. Like, take it back. You're sitting, also wearing orange. I know is a recollection of that day. It was kind of the first thing you remember. You wake up, you're wearing orange, and you look up. I have this kind of like picture, this image of a dude walking through the door, and he's also wearing orange today, which I thought was cool. You're wearing this orange shirt. And if yourself, X amount of years ago looks up and sees you walk in, he's going, man, he kind of looks like me, but he's got an awesome sweet beard rocking. Yeah, man, what would you say in what you're telling that kid? Yeah. Hey, this is where you're going. This is what you get to do.
Man, well, anytime I can get a facial hair compliment from a guru, that means a lot to me. So thank you for that. Yeah. Man, I can picture, I don't know if I'm blessed with good memory or just so hardcore, but like I can picture it like it was yesterday. Well, I really can. And I think what I would say is like, hang in there. Hang in there. I know it sounds simple, but I mean that. Like, hang in there meaning it will pass. Like at that time, it's just get through this day. Just get through this day. But looking back high level, you can go, man, what if you gave up? What if you just cashed it in and just decided to believe the lies of like, you're not worthy. You've messed up too much. There's not going to be these things I mentioned earlier. Like no one's going to love you now. Nobody's going to offer to you work with kids again. No one, man, that's what I love. I love coaching. I love pouring into kids. And I thought, who's going to accept you for that again? Nobody. But had I given up, and had I said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Believe that voice. You're right. Give up. Not give up life, but give up of ever having a quality of life like that again. Just kind of go in your hole and then whatever, just exist. Then I would have missed out on all these opportunities, man. All these opportunities to be here with you, to have the book, to share the story, to encourage people, to have an awesome wife that I brought in earlier, to have all this great time with my kiddos. I mentioned last night I had a rough one with one of mine, but still we see each other again. We're reconciled. We have all these things because you hung in there, because you gave it to God. You trusted every day. And then also important, you accepted your behavior. You owned it. You didn't just, hey, whatever, I made a mistake. You turned from that behavior and you made some different choices. And then humility entered your life. And now God was able to go, okay, I got something I can work with now. Look at all this I had for you that you never would have found if you stayed in your old selfish baseball life, or if you got in this trouble and got in this low point in your life and just kind of gave up. You wouldn't have experienced any of this stuff. So for anybody going through it, and you can imagine I get to talk to some people that are going through it, because people go, hey, you need to talk to this guy. He's been through it. And when I do, I'm like, guy, I know right now you're thinking, there's no way. There's no life after this. there's no future. I've outsinned God's grace. My family can never love me again. And I'm like, they can. Yes, they can, but you got to just hang in there, and you got to work on yourself. And you can't just throw yourself away and go, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. With God's strength, you are. And so, dude, sitting in that cell, counting down, how old are my kids going to be in 5 years? They gave me a 5-year sentence, and I was going, okay, it's over. It's not over. There's so much more. And again, these tears are more tears of joy of like, look where he has brought us. Look what you're doing today from where you were at that time. That's what I would tell that guy.
Man. Dude. Ben, good to see you, dude. Hey, Ben, I'm going to you raised your hand. We're throwing out hearts. If you guys have any, follow up, we've obviously got Brandon's contact information. We're going to have the recording of this call. Just so grateful for you, dude. Again, we want to get you connected with people here, people who watch this in the future. Because look at what happens, just like Richard said earlier, one man's vulnerability in the lives that are impacted as a result. So thank you, dude, for sharing today.
You guys are family, bro. I love you guys. I don't just say that.
Yeah.
I'm serious. We might go a little while without talking. I know in the beginning, but every day I'm like, I see your posts. I'm like, man, I love those guys. They changed my life.
Wow, man. We love you, brother.
Yeah, love you, man. The in-person meeting, it's going to happen with all. It's such a funny component about Streamline is that you can find these relationships, and it's virtual and all the things, but we know they're coming. Whether it's a Chiefs tailgate, dude, it'll be us, T Swift. We'll get the whole game.
Oh, Swifty will be right there with us. There's no doubt.
Okay, listen, if you guys line up Taylor Swift, I need to come. So please let me know about that.
Yeah, we will. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining the call. Hope y'all have a great rest of your Friday.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Puff.
Such a great call. Thanks, Puff.
Guys, love you.
Brandon.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
All right. Bye, Julie. Bye, Alex. Will. Ben.
See you, brother.
All right, guys.